one since my other video did relatively well. I feel comfortable doing another one. Why the hell not? I like doing these. Let's get on to the reviews. Spiral from the Book of Saw. This movie is actual torture to sit through, no pun intended. I was only made because of Chris Rock's enormous ego. Instead of just simply doing his own horror movie, he just decided, I'm gonna drag a whole entire franchise down with me. Because people don't take me seriously. Yeah, no shit, you're a comedian. Maybe if you were a competent actor, you would actually have something called range. Anyways, the development hell aside, let's start with that title. It already makes the movie look bad. Seeing that from the Book of Saw gave me Madam Web vibes with how the movie kept saying that it was an association with Marvel, as if it wanted to establish that it wasn't a part of the bigger franchise. Whoa, it's sort of like nobody wanted to make this fucking movie, and I cannot blame them. And what about my opinion on the movie? It's a movie filled with cop cliches that would make you roll your eyes so many times that people would think that you're having a fucking seizure. In this one, the main villain is uninteresting and the actor has nothing going for him to make this continuation of Saw remotely interesting. This Saw movie barely has any traps, and even if they're met at best, it can be straight up idiotic at worst. Like there's one where the person has to sever their spinal cord, but the whole entire premise of Saw is that they could get away. So even if they broke their spine, where the fuck are they supposed to go? Can't move now, so how are they supposed to get out? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But the traps aren't the worst problem of this movie. The bigger problem of this movie is the generic cop movie bullshit. I would say that the cop portion of this movie is 90% of the movie, which is already a bad start to this Saw movie. Let's move to the first two main actors. They are straight up terrible in this movie, especially the rookie cop actor. I don't know the actor who played the rookie cop, but Jesus, his performance has to be some of the worst acting I've ever seen. He talks in a very stilted and bored manner, but when he tries to come off as threatening, it's really hard to take him seriously when it sounds like he's about to fall asleep. The movie wants to appear as if it's anti-cop at times, but then does a lot of stuff make it seem as if cops are justified in casually torturing people just because they are a drug dealer and they play that as a laugh. It's really weird to add in this movie, but okay. I find it hilarious to find out that Chris Rock signed on to this because he wanted to be taken more seriously as an actor, even though his acting is either him doing a really bad Joe Rogan levels of terrible stand-up, like making a Twilight joke in 2021, or it's him actually trying to be serious even though it comes off as very try-hard and forced. It's constantly doing this tug of war of tones that don't work in the end. The comedy isn't even funny or prominent to count it as a comedy. And the seriousness that is there is as serious as SpongeBob delivering the news that Chernobyl blew up. The 1.5 hour movie that feels like it's 2 times longer than what it should be. It was physically draining to watch this, and it made me extremely tired afterwards. Watch this movie if you want to fall asleep. You'll wake up feeling fucking fantastic. The twist of the rookie cop was boring, the traps are boring, the cinematography is boring, back-to-back shots with no personality to them, everything is so formulaic. The new Jigsaw impersonator sucks and sound like if Kermit the Frog and Jordan Peterson fucked. It's just such an unintimidating and weak-sounding voice that is trying to come off as being serious when it has the complete opposite effect.
Hello, Detective Boswick. I want to play a game.
Like, you could do that exact voice effects with one of those voice-changing microphones that you get at a Dollar Tree or something. There's barely anything for me to actually say about this movie. It's like a Hallmark version of a Saw movie that doesn't even know what type of movie it wants to be. I constantly keep on forgetting that it is a Saw movie because this movie is a Frankenstein mess of different movies put into one that fails on every level to be interesting. And once you look at the behind-the-scenes stuff, the issues that I have with this movie make more and more sense. Cinematography made fucking music videos. Chris Rock was being an egotistical asshole by improvising most of the movie's script. It's so obvious that Chris Rock wanted to make a buddy cop movie and not a Saw movie.
Worked on a lot of like my dialogue and just like some of the cop stuff, but I made sure I had nothing to do with the traps. You know, I had like literally, I was like, no, don't even show it to me. I don't even want to know what it is till I get to the set.
And you could see all of the behind-the-scenes drama on screen as you watch the movie. Saw 10 was put on the back burner to publish a movie that only one person wanted to make. How fucking depressing is that? A movie made out of desperation would have actually replaced a movie that was done out of passion. Avoid this movie at all costs, even if you're doing it to watch all of the Saw movies. At least Saw 3D was stupid fun and Jigsaw was laughably stupid, if not not a dumpster fire of itself, but it is not worth wasting an hour and a half on this movie. I'll be giving this movie a 1 out of 10. This movie, no, that's not the word. This product is an embarrassment to the Saw franchise, and even if you remove it as a Saw movie, it is a horrendously overblown mess that has thankfully forgotten to time and was a critical and financial failure. Fuck this movie for wasting my goddamn time. Zathura. Zathura was always a movie that I grew up liking, and I'll say it, it's better than Jumanji. Yeah, I say it. What the fuck are you gonna do about it? Eat my dick, bitch. I always appreciated this movie by a lot of what it does. Looking back, it's just very sad for a movie that is ultimately a family movie. It's just a very tense story about two brothers who are at each other's throats. They're both upset that their mom got divorced with their dad, so the older brother blames the younger brother for her leaving. It's weirdly realistic with how they portrayed the two brothers' struggling relationships by how spiteful they are towards one another. One wanted to get the attention of his brother, while the other one is too busy with growing up and feeling as if his brother is holding him back. They feel like actual siblings, and they're memorable for that. And their chemistry towards the end is pretty heartwarming, even if the older brother can be a dick at times, but luckily the movie doesn't reward him for being a little bit too far at times.
And you almost got me killed. It wasn't my fault. It's not your fault? How is it not your fault? This is all your fault. Everything's your fault. It's your fault Mom and Dad got divorced.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
I forgot that the actress from Twilight was in this, which I also forgot that she had a career before and after those movies. I don't know how, since her acting is normally mumbly and constipated sounding, but there's an audience for her, so there must be a reason of why she's successful that I just don't see. But in this movie, I can just say that she's fine. She's completely okay. My favorite parts with her was technically when she wasn't on screen, which is a huge compliment from the things I've seen her in.
You nicknamed my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster?
And a young Peter, would you look at that? Aww. Pacing in this movie, however, is a bit stilted. It feels like things move too slowly at times in this movie, and the characters sort of just tell what they're thinking instead of showing, which can get a bit annoying at times. The kids' acting at times can be hit or miss, but I'm not gonna blame the kids for that. I blame the directors for not really directing them well, which the director is Jon Favreau. Like, the Jon Favreau. What the fuck? I think it's very un-John of Favreau that he wanted to go full practical effects on this movie. Whatever happened to that, John? Sorry, I had to bring out my inner YMS. But ultimately, the two kids do a decent job at portraying a brotherly relationship and the unintended power dynamics that come with it. The whole subplot with the astronaut was very depressing, with him being stuck in space for years because he wished for his brother to never be born. That is so dark. But the weird thing is, you can picture a younger kid making that wish without realizing what would happen. Then I unintentionally laugh whenever his brother was wished back, because the younger brother technically killed the older versions of his own brother's brother. So the wish was kind of pointless, but I get what they were going with him wanting to see his brother for the last time so that he can get over his own grief with his brother. And I get that it was the, oh, you corrected the timeline sort of story, or that could have been the older brother, but luckily he turned a page. But the brother that has been in space for multiple years, I think he would have went, kill my brother before I could say anything, asshole. I was surprised by the amount of times I chuckled in this movie. It's amazing here nowadays that back then they would just allow a PG movie to have the words bitch and dick in this movie, but not the word hell, weirdly. I don't like the subplot of the older version of the older brother being an accidental love interest for the sister. There is no point where the older brother goes, hey, I'm kind of your brother, so can you stop hitting on me? It's sort of like he allows it to happen, which is weird. I just don't really find humor in an accidental incest joke that's centered around literal children, which I don't really think that that's a very controversial thing to say. And if you have a problem with me saying that, then just get help. That's all I can say. The CGI and practical effects, I believe, still hold up pretty decently around 20 years later with the relatively low budget, especially the Zorgons, which reminds me of the Dark Crystal puppets. They look pretty damn good. I like the little guy that repairs the robot. Like, he's such a cute little creature. There needs to be more little guys in media. Come on, stand up with the little guys. It's kind of a shame that a lot of people thought that this was a ripoff of Jumanji when the original book for Zathura was made by the same author. It was considered a financial flop at the time that later developed a cult following through people like me growing up and appreciating its flaws and qualities, which I think that this movie has the most funniest box office results of any movie. It had a budget of $65 million. It made back $65.1 million. How is that not a giant unintentional fuck you. It's a charming little movie with its own set of small problems layered throughout the plot of the movie, but it's a pretty cute and down-to-earth experience at times. I'll be giving this movie a 7 out of 10. I would still recommend going back and watching it, and if you haven't already, I still believe that you should watch it. Being Puppycat Lazy in Space. Oh my god, this show is so fucking good. Being Puppycat is a show where a 20-something-year-old woman goes on adventures with her pet Puppycat after not being able to hold a job. It feels like the perfect show for me, since its tone and humor is more relatable towards young adults. It's a very calm show that gives me the same sort of comfort that the Animal Crossing games would give me. It's so chill, in fact, that I keep on forgetting that this is an adult cartoon, so when a character curses, it shocks me every single time since they use curse words very rarely. The music is very lo-fi inspired, which gives the show a very welcoming feel to it. There's even some original songs that are by Puppycat that are pretty good, even if they're just Vocaloid or done as a joke. Better than what VisiPup can make. Huh, who said that? It wasn't me, I'm just a little guy. There are a lot of subplots that happen that are pretty depressing, which I think tonally they do a good job at handling more mature material, since the show is already kind of chill in the first place, so when the depressing moment happens, you just go, oh shit. Like how there's a kid landlord that is only a landlord because his mom is in a type of coma that she can't wake up from. So he has a panic attack about being a landlord and how people his age shouldn't have a job, which explains why he's more mature than the children that are his age, because of that absence of hospitality. Or how there's one episode where there's a guy trying to beat previous memories of himself that he either wants to relive or extremely regret. Literally being in a cycle of trying to make himself be a better person, with him not wanting to cheat anymore in life. But in the end, he still cheated, but he saw that as a victory, destroying the actual reason of why he wanted to change in the first place, which I think is extremely fucking sad. I love how simple but real it is. Or it could be something as simple as a person wanting to do something but just failing in every way. It does a good job fleshing out these characters and sort of exposing their insecurities. It's more therapeutic in its approach than anything. The plot purposely just throws a lot of characters, reveals, and flashbacks at you, which I would complain about in other shows, but it gives the show a very mysterious tone. Like, who is a landlord's mom? Who is B? Who is Puppycat really? Why are they all here, and what's their goal? It spoon feeds you hints without being condescending, but also at the same time, these characters are still a mystery. The humor in the show is also pretty funny, whether that be the assholish nature of Puppycat, the vocal delivery of the other characters, the recurring joke of the wrestler lady that keeps on fighting random people, or how with every job that B does, she gets paid a very shitty amount. I don't need you to remind me of real life cartoons, it's already sad enough at the current state of jobs. The animation in this show is gorgeous. It's this style called vaporware pastel that I think is very nice on the eyes. I would say that it's one of the most visually appealing cartoons that I have seen in a while. There's a lot of calm and relaxing colors that fill every section of the screen. You can see a lot of passion and attention to detail that this show glorifies with. No wonder it took 6 years for this season to get made. It's one of my favorite semi-recent TV shows that has come out in a while, and I think that you guys should watch it. It's a very chill but depressingly realistic show that I think everyone can relate to. It's a shame that Netflix hasn't greenlit a third season of this show. And yes, I said third season. Weirdly, on Netflix, they don't have the first season, but they do have their own published second season on the streaming service. Apparently, you don't have to watch the first season to get the Netflix version of the show, but I would recommend watching the first season, which is completely free on YouTube. Fuck you, Netflix, for leaving this show on a cliffhanger. I'll be giving this show a very generous 10 out of 10. Please support this show. A Quiet Place Day 1. Now, I am very decisive on the whole Quiet Place franchise. I thought the first one was decent. I liked the characters in it and the circumstances the movies forced these characters to be in. And while it has its own minor problems, I think it's like a 7.5 out of 10. The second movie felt like a complete backpedal on the first movie, where it makes the badass characters into characters that keep on crying all the time. It had a lot of questionable moments in it that made it very annoying to sit through. Like a lot of the characters just making straight up stupid decisions. In the end, the movie is like a 4 out of 10. And then you have A Quiet Place Day 1 that is a prequel to the whole entire series. Ever since the second movie bummed me out whenever I watched it during early COVID at the movie theaters, I wasn't really excited for this new Quiet Place movie when it went to theaters, so I just waited until it went to streaming, and I kinda liked it. But I do have my problems with the movie. This movie centers around a main character named Samira that is diagnosed with some sort of cancer. Her whole entire goal, I think, is both charming but kind of idiotic at the same time. Her whole goal is to go to a pizza place to see it one last time since she knows that she doesn't have a lot of time left because of her cancer. But then she gets extremely devastated that her pizza place that she likes was destroyed, but you would think that she would know that the place would be destroyed because what comes with devastating events? Looting and destruction, either due to the disaster itself or by people simply panicking or taking advantage of the situation. I don't get why she didn't think that there could be a possibility that the pizza place would be destroyed. Also, how many days went by in this story? This cannot be all in one day because it's been multiple days. That pizza is going to be moldy or spoiled by the time that you get to it. There's a cat in this movie that I feel like it was just put there for people to go on at. I feel like that would be an interesting idea of keeping an animal that you're close to, but also putting yourself at risk if the animal makes a sound. I mean, I think that would get really gimmicky after a while, but at least it would be an interesting idea. But this is weirdly the quietest cat I've ever seen. It doesn't panic at all. It doesn't meow a single time until the end. It survived being submerged underneath the water on several occasions, but it didn't choke on water or do anything. It was used as one set piece that felt very forced, and I just felt like the cat was extremely unneeded in general. I think the inconsistencies on what counts as quiet and what doesn't is extremely confusing and irritating at times. Like, there's a scene where one of the main characters died because he was trying to stop a loud generator, but he didn't die because of the generator making a loud sound. He was instead noticed because a piece of his clothing ripped off. Wouldn't the creatures be attracted to any sound? Already established that with the cars. Since when were they that nitpicky? So let me get this straight. They went towards a simple bell in another scene, but not the generator. What type of bullshit is that? I can't stress enough how fucking stupid that one scene is. It's still stuck in my head. There's one scene where they're in a body of running water, which the movie established that rain or rivers can hide their voice from the monsters, but somehow the tiniest whimper can trigger one of the aliens. And there was a scene with the crowds walking in the city that didn't make a lot of sense because it looks like these people have been walking for a long time in a crowd, and you're telling me that not a single person did something loud during all that? I mean, eventually they did get taken out, but I guess the creatures waited until the main character was in view for them to start splatterhousing all over the place. And the ending shot to this movie was just so extremely bad and cheesy that I just had to laugh at it. I got what they were doing, but the execution kinda sucked. I may have spent half of this review complaining about the movie, but I do think that there is a good amount of stuff that makes this movie pretty decent. I thought what was most interesting about this movie was the relationship between the two main characters, and I do have to admit there's some scenes with them that are kind of cute. Like how the main guy character named Eric was doing a bunch of tasks for her, like getting her medicine, taking her to her dad's bar that he used to play at, or purposely labeling a pizza he found as the pizza place that she wanted her pizza from. Like, I have to admit, that's pretty adorable. I just found it shocking that he found a New Yorker that isn't a dick. Heyo! The whole entire journey with the two characters and the mission to do this one last thing before the main character dies of cancer is pretty commendable. I like how the main character sort of treats the guy's panic attacks throughout the movie, and plus it just makes the movie more realistic. I don't think I've really seen a horror movie that shows a character having a panic attack. In the end, these two actors and the actor in the beginning did a pretty good job at the roles that they played in, especially the main actress. She's pretty damn good in this movie. You could feel her frustrations with having cancer and how her frustrations with her cancer sort of lets her unintentionally block away the people that are trying to help her or genuinely likes her as a friend. I think she portrays a person who believes that the world has fucked them over pretty convincingly, and the journey from her not having friends to eventually gaining this one person's respect and friendship was pretty satisfying to see. It's a more emotional journey than it is an actual physical journey. The British actor was also pretty good, just conveying a naturally nice, anxious, riddled survivor. And the best parts of these movies is when they're doing something very mundane or they're just having a casual conversation with one another. You could just see their relationship get better and better on screen. And I like how this movie is more lower scaled than the other movies. The monsters act more like backdrops than being front and center in the main story. It sort of reminds me of how they handled the third episode of The Last of Us show. It is nowhere as good as that, far from it. That episode is the best episode episode in TV history, and I don't care what other people have to say about it, especially the anti-SJW community, which I definitely don't want them to be a part of my community. If you really think that I'm gonna pander my content towards hateful people, I'm not, and if you have a problem with that, then you can fuck off. But anyways, just like how I like episode 3 of The Last of Us show, I like how this movie focuses more on a personal story, rather than focusing on action set pieces. I mean, technically there are action set pieces, but I don't think that that's the movie's strength, you know? I believe that it's a nice change for the franchise. I thought the CGI looked fine for a relatively mid-budgeted movie. The music is mostly terrible until it attempts to tug at your heartstrings whenever the two characters shared their last moments together. Then the music became kinda annoying because it doesn't let the scene just play out. Oh, I almost forgot about this scene. There is one jump scare that was so awful and obvious that it reminded me of the Green Goblin jump scare from the original Spider-Man movies, and that's all I have to say about this movie. This movie may not be perfect. It has its multiple inconsistencies that make the film overall kind of mixed in my opinion. I could say that it's a really charming movie at its strongest, and a movie that makes you ask a lot of questions about its own rules at its worst. There's one thing that this movie could say over the second movie: this movie is definitely better than it. I think it's comfortable enough for me to say that this movie was a decent watch. I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. I would recommend giving it a watch. It's an alright movie. Does this give me hope for Quiet Place Part 3? Nope. Anyways, that is all of my reviews. You already know what time it is. Like if you want to, comment if you want to, even subscribe if you want to. I don't care, you do you, and have a good day.